Hello. Welcome to the art stream. So I completely rearranged my setup. So we will see how well this works, or if this works at all. It's gonna be a learning experience. I had to completely rearrange my studio and completely rearrange my whole arting space, mess with my lighting here. Don't mind me while I fiddle around a little bit to get started here. All right, so I am going to be working on my webcomic, Age of Night, chapter 23, page 24. As you can see, all I have here so far are panel borders. That's it, just some panel borders. So I don't even have any perspective grids yet. So I do have my layout, my little thumbnails for my layouts, just out of frame here. This is the page that I'm working on, as you can see. And it looks like I'm going to need at least 2 perspective grids. Yeah, I think 2, and that should do it. So I'm going to need one for the first panel, and I need one for the 4th panel. So let's go ahead and do those. I'll get my board out of the way because, I still have tape here. I like reuse my little bits of tape. They're just on the edge of my drafting table for ridiculous amounts of time because I'm going to need them on the edges of my paper. So looking at this thumbnail, it looks like the horizon line, eraser boogers. It looks like the horizon line should be up here, fairly high. Actually, I'm going to scooch up just a little more. I'm going to put it up here. I'll label it. And yeah, this is not exactly like the most kosher or accurate way to do this, but this is how I do this. Is I use a line on my desk that's mostly a parallel line. Mostly a parallel line to the edge of the page, and I line up the horizon line, use that tape that doesn't want to stick because it's humid today. Use that tape to hold my page still so it's not scooting around now while I'm doing this. And then I'm going to get, rather than the blue, here's a little pencil nub, but there's not much left to it. And then I'm going to use a point over here that I have marked that's unfortunately right out of frame. I don't know if I can, right over there on the edge of the desk. And I'm going to use that as my first perspective point. And just pivot this out from there, making these lines. This is going to be a 2-point perspective panel. So I'm going to have another one on the other side. All right, and then I'm going to use a different color. I can find my other pencil. Yeah, now I'm going to use this one is like a pink color. So it's still very different from the blue. Also a little bit different from the red that I used on the first side here. Longer ruler. Let me find my longer ruler. Okay, here's my big, giant, I think it's probably close to like 40 inches long ruler. Because my other vanishing point is way off on the other side. Because I'm going to be pretty shallow from here. There we go. All right, so there's my first perspective grid. I may still need that. I'm not going to tuck that away too far. I still need to do another perspective down here. I'm going to move my tape because now the top of my page is off the desk. So obviously that tape's not going to do me any good up there. Let me see where I'm going to put that horizon line. Looking at the actual image on the thumbnail, this horizon line is actually going to be really high up above the panel. It's not even going to be in the panel. So that's going to be up here. I'm going to mark it H2 because it's my second horizon line. I learned this method for keeping my perspective grid straight from my former professor, the late Tom Lyle. I took many, many classes with him at SCAD. He could be extremely difficult to please, but I did learn a lot from him. Okay, we're gonna scoot over this way a little bit. Yeah, I think right there. Okay. And I'm going to put my tape down here where it's actually going to do me some good because the top edge of my page is past the edge of my drafting table. Once again, first vanishing point over on the edge here. Oops, this is the wrong panel. That's not where this goes. I'm working on this panel. Foolish person. All right, first vanishing point on this perspective grid down here. And there doesn't need to be like any particular spacing between these. These are just guidelines, so you can space them as close together or as far apart as you feel like. I like to keep them fairly close together and fairly evenly spaced. Obviously, sometimes I leave like a big awkward gap places for no reason, but it doesn't really matter. As long as they're all going to the same vanishing point, they're all going to be giving you that information of this is the direction those planes are going to be going in. And again, this side, the vanishing point is pretty far away, so I need my giant ruler. I also changed my setup so it is way easier for me to actually see the screen and the comments now, so that's good. That's an improvement. Hopefully I won't have to pause and squint at the screen so much now when people make comments or have questions, which if you do at any point, feel free to comment. Okay, that is both of my perspective grids. I'm still gonna take that tape and just kind of stick it on the edge of my desk so I can use it again later because it's still got a little bit of tackiness left to it. All right, I'm going to put my board back up here just because it has a nicer, somewhat smoother texture than the antique wood of my drafting table. That wood is pretty nice, but you can sometimes get a little texture bleeding through onto the paper, which I don't really want. So why are we being like this with the lighting situation? What's going on here? Okay. All right, well, we've got our perspective grids. So now I'm going to sharpen my pencil. And we're going to start on roughing in some of these figures. So actually, I'm going to use one of those pieces of tape to hold my thumbnail up where I can see it easier. There we go. I've got the script off to the side too, just in case the thumbnail is hard to read or I'm not entirely sure what my weird little scribbles are supposed to mean. I can reference the script and be like, oh, that's what's supposed to be going on there. I see now. Also, because the very first thing to put in on any given panel are the word balloons so that I leave enough space for them. And so that way I can see exactly, well, not exactly, but I can see how big of a word balloon I should leave roughly by looking at the script. That needs to be a little lower, I think. I'm going to start roughing in some of these basic shapes of what's going on in here. Right. I've got one figure. Running onto the scene here. Ooh, that's a little too far forward. That's like, she's got like a 6 foot long leg there, the way that's drawn. Let's try that again. Okay. And she's got lots of flowy garments here, flowy robes that are kind of billowing out as she's running. And then we've got another figure in the foreground. She needs to be a little bit lower, because this should come to the top of her head is here, and she's closer to the viewer. Then it should be, yeah, it would line up about with her waist where she is. And I will draw outside of the panel to just get the basic shapes in to make sure that that is how an arm would reach. I'll erase it later. It's not going to stay there, but okay. That's that first panel, more or less. I might be able to scooch those word balloons a little bit because she's not taking up as much space as I thought she might, so that should be fine. But at least I have the space for them now. I wonder if I scoot my light over a little bit, if this might be, oh no, it's in frame. No, that didn't help at all. Okay, that only made things worse. We'll make this work. It's still a little bit of a work in progress here. No, that's a little too far over. She's like right off the edge of the panel there. I think I might need to pull back, make her a little bit smaller, and scoot her over a little bit. She's just a little too close to the edge of the frame. Should be a little better. Yeah, I just wanted both her shoulders in there so she doesn't look like she's falling out of the frame. Oh, same problem. She's too close to the edge. Let's scoot her in more. Yep, so even here you can see I'm drawing the other shoulder. Like none of this is in frame, but I'm drawing the other shoulder, the other upper arm, so that the one little bit of lower arm that you see is at the right angle for how she would be in this pose. It's a little bit confusing. There's kind of a jumble of all the different limbs interacting there, but hopefully that'll all make sense a little later. Okay. Another word balloon there, and then we've got a close-up here. There you go. So there's that close-up, roughed in. So now we're going to work on this panel. This is a little bit more pulled out. Got a little figure down here. Oh, that doesn't make sense. It be like that. I was drawing him all sorts of backwards. That wasn't going to work. There we go. That's better. All right, but then there's also other figures over here, another building and other figures over here. This is another one of those. In this chapter, there's a lot of these kind of shots where since everything's taking place in the same setting, but different parts of this same like compound of different buildings, is that there's a lot of these shots that kind of like pull back and show you, okay, we were focusing on these people over here and now we're shifting to this person over here. So rather than just cutting from one to the other to kind of keep a sense of like continuity of this is all happening in the same place simultaneously. I don't know how effective it is. That's just what I decided to do for this chapter. Can't tell you if it was, you know, if it actually like worked. I mean, if any of you have read it, you can tell me if it works or not. I've already done several of these transitions in the pages that are available online, so this one will still be a few weeks away, but I feel like those figures are a little bit big because they're like taller than him, which makes no sense. If they stood up, they would be taller than he is, and he's closer to the viewer. Perspective is hard, y'all. Let me try this again. They need to be small, smaller rib cage, smaller pelvis, smaller little legs. That's more like it. Okay, yeah, that looks a lot more like it. So now let's see. We still have just a couple of these left. I need to scoot this up so that you can see what I'm doing a little better. Got a couple of edges of buildings here. It's like this narrow little alleyway, which could I have done a perspective grid for this one? Yes. Am I going to? No. No, I am not. I am not going to bother doing that. So we've got some trees and shrubs going on here, edge of the swamp. And we've got a figure through here. All right, so now let's see, we're about 25 minutes into the stream and I have everything roughed in. So that's 6 panels, all roughed in, perspective grids in 2 of them. So now we can start refining these pencils. Let me sharpen my pencil here. Oh, geez. The tip fell off. I hate it when that happens. Okay, so now I've got my pencil sharpened. Oh, I'm tangled up in cords over here. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to start with whatever's closest, which in this case is going to be this figure. Now, as I start finalizing some of these shapes, I can start erasing some of this underdrawing. I don't like that line. I do want to show that the fabric is folding as she's kind of like curved over in this kind of hunched over position, but that line was someplace where it didn't make any sense because that would have been like in the middle of her rib cage. It wouldn't be folding because she's not folding in the middle of her rib cage. That doesn't make sense. All right. Her bun. The ear is going to be right here. Hairline, since this is from behind, this is pretty much all we're getting. Clean up some more of these edges. Jawline there. And now the edge of her hand where, oops, no, I have to stop and do that. And look that if your hands are like this, then your thumbs are on the outside. So she needs a thumb on the outside there. This is why you have to occasionally stop and just like do these things to yourself. I'll even sometimes when I'm doing layouts and I'll notice that there's like a particular pose that it's like, oh, I don't know how that goes. I'm going to have to take some reference pictures. So there. Oh, hello, Allison. Yeah, working on pencils today. There we go. Yeah, I have a whole video too about elsewhere on my channel. I have a video about using photo reference to try to figure out tricky poses or compositions because I do that all the time. I'll take pictures of myself or my husband or whoever I can rope into doing stuff for me to make these poses look correct. Okay, this is gonna be a little bit. I think I need my little eraser pencil to get in some of these smaller areas. I like this one a lot. This is a Paper Mate. The only refills I've found for it are from Generals. And they're kind of hard to find. Get her face in there. So yeah, I had to completely change my layout here of how I do this. So you'll have to let me know, like my whole setup for how I stream. You'll have to let me know if you like the way this is working, or if you liked it better the way it was. There's her shoulder, upper arm. There we go. All right, and she's got this part of her veil that's in the front here that needs to kind of be blowing back behind her as she's running. So here's that. Yeah, I find taking reference photos, like posing and taking my own reference photos, is usually just as easy, if not easier and faster, than trying to find the right thing online. Like, unless I really just have no clue and I'm just like, look up said activity, like somebody doing like a long jump. And it'll be just like, I don't even know how to pose that. Long jump pictures. Oh, okay, that's what that looks like. I'll use one of those. But if I have a specific pose in mind, that I like, a specific thing I want somebody to be doing, and I just can't seem to work it out, then yeah, I'll usually just pose for one myself or make my husband do it. Because then I can get exactly what I want, or as close to it as possible. There's the rest of her veil blowing back behind her. One hand that's forward as she's running. And then she wears so many layers. There's so many layers to this freaking costume. this leg forward. Get that kind of now it needs to come. All right, the rest of that's kind of hidden by this big flowing skirt of her robe here. Okay, so there's okay, there's that. There's pretty much the first panel. Oh, 3D model. Yeah, that can also be really helpful. I will fully admit to being super bad at computers, though, so I don't usually do things like that just because I am bad at using computers. Not even gonna lie. I'm sure the programs are lovely and helpful and wonderful, but I am still bad at them. I use Photoshop almost every day, and I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing with it half the time. But that is, if you are not terrible at computers, that is a great idea. Let's get some of these tiles that are down, or pavers that are down on the ground here. That's not right. That's where that would go. There we go. Okay. It gives me a rough outline to ink that later. Well, maybe I'll give it a shot. If it is easier, then maybe I'll give it a shot at some point. How are we on time? 40 minutes. Let's move on to the next panel. I'm going to start by blocking in some of the stuff that I didn't really block in on the roughs when I was just kind of getting the basic shapes in. So like I already have, for this particular panel, I already have like the basic shapes of where her head and her ribs and her arms are and her leg. But now I'm going in and doing just a little more blocking, where now I'm putting in like her hair, like the shape that her hair is. So there's like where her braids are. Here's roughly where her ear is going to be. Here's the basic shape of her veil. One part of it anyway. Basic shape of where her arm is going to go. Oh yeah, this is confusing because then her arm's on the outside here too. So this arm is actually even closer. So I'll do that. I'll put that one in real quick. And again, thumbs, when your hands are held palm up, Your thumbs are on the outside. I have to keep reminding myself this. I keep on trying to put them on the inside, and that's not where they go. That's not where your thumbs are. All right. Sorry, I had to concentrate on that hand there for a second. Took some concentration. All right. So there's her sleeve. Okay, and then we can start doing this actual sleeve. Start firming up these details here. All right, there's that part of her arm. So we'll get some of this. Yeah, I don't like how that tried to form there. She's reaching forward, so you'd be getting some pulling like that from that corner. The fabric pulling along this seam here. Okay, so now we're going to do some of these braids. So the way that I do a braid is that I'll make a basic shape, put a line down the middle, and then I kind of make these little squishy parallelogram type shapes for the individual pleats in the braid. And then as they go like around a corner or over the top, you're going to see, oops, doing that the wrong way, you're going to see less of them. And remember that each side of the plate, they're making like a little arrow shape together. So that's how I do that. had people be like, oh, that looks so complex to do. And it's like, nah, it's actually really simple. It's actually really simple. You just gotta have a method so you don't get confused. Because you're gonna want those to deform as they're turning away from you. So like the ones that are pretty much facing you are longer, and they get kind of shorter as they're going around her head, and then it's just kind of a little tiny shape there as it's making that, rounding that corner to the front of her head there. All right, so I've got, and then there's the back of her crown. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are kind of all on top of each other as they're also going around that curve. Oh, wait, that part of her veil is behind her ear. I always forget that. It just hangs down the front, but it's still behind her ear. So we'll do it right there. Here's the side of her face. I erase some more of this underdrawing to make it less confusing. She's got her kind of wide belt there. Okay, so there's one figure in this one. We've got, oh, we only have 10 minutes left. We'll see if I can finish penciling this panel at least. Try to at least finish one panel. That would be good. Oh, my big head is in the way. Let's try not to do that either. There we go. Got her face going there. Try to get that strap on the corner of her dress there. There we go, the little fold in the bend of her arm there. So let's see, we've got a little more than 5 minutes left. I'm going to start telling you the things. So this is from my webcomic, Age of Night. You can find it at ageofnight.com. That's AGEOFNIGHT. It's totally free online, updates a new page every Wednesday. I'm on chapter 23 and more coming all the time. And while it is all available for free, you can also sponsor me on Patreon. That way you get to see all the comic pages a week early. So a week before they become available for free online, you get to see them on Patreon, which is pretty cool. You also get to see lots of like behind the scenes type stuff, and previews and other stuff I'm working on, and get to see videos before everyone else, all sorts of cool stuff. You can also buy copies of my comic on the big giant website where you buy all the things. It's there. It's there. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm glad I got a chance to hop on today. Life has been really crazy lately, so. You can also find me on Instagram at Amanda Call Art and Twitter at Age of Night. If you like watching these videos, then you can subscribe and hit the bell notification thingy so that you know when I go live, because it's not always at the same time because, as mentioned, life is crazy. So I don't get to keep as consistent a schedule as I may like. It's like usually Friday or Saturday, maybe, usually in the afternoon. I wish it could be a little more predictable, but alas. Alas, my life is not like that. I think that's all the things. Upcoming appearances, none. Ha 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 ha. No conventions anytime soon. The one that I had scheduled for September just canceled in the last week sometime. They just canceled. So, you know, I mean, we all knew they were going to, but now they finally officially did. So that's good. All right. So let's see. We are just about at time. I started this page with just panel borders. We did perspective grids on the first panel and the fourth panel, and I roughed everything out, and I finished pencils on the first 2 panels. I still have the last 4 to go, but I've made a really good start on this. So that's good. And thank you everybody for coming and hanging out while I did this, and hopefully I will see you next time. Bye.